the night before the NFC Championship. There's a couple of things that I want to talk about in regards to both games, but today I just want to have an honest conversation. Talking about Detroit Lions quarterback, Jared Goff. Now, when you think about the Detroit Lions, there's a couple of things that your mind can run to. You could automatically think, okay, this is a football team who's been doubted, who's been counted out, who's been counted against, a lot of different things. And I think with the ups and downs of the season, it's been a tumultuous event. Even with all of the successes, the question still remains, what would this football team actually be once we got into playoff football? But I really want to take this thing to Jared Goff and focus on him because not only does Dan Campbell, some of the guys on the defense, Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson, they have the opportunity to cement their legacies, but I think Jared Goff is a guy, if he wins, the underdog in this situation, 7-point dogs actually versus the 49ers. If he comes out on top, what does the discussion become? And what is the legacy like? Because when you think about Jared Goff, I think a lot of things get forgotten when we talk about how good is this guy. On the Detroit Lions, has a lot of weapons. You got Laporta, you got St. Brown, you got Jamison Williams, you got Josh Reynolds, you got the two backs in the backfield. But when you look at this football team, you also got to think about Jared Goff himself. Coming out of Cal, highly touted NFL draft prospect, number one pick in the NFL draft, went to the Los Angeles Rams, had Todd Gurley, Robert Woods, some of those guys there, and they turned that thing around with a young head coach in Sean McVay. But automatically, when I think about that, I'm looking at how he's played in this season, and specifically in the playoffs. Jared Goff in the divisional round and the wild card round, he's 52 of 70, 564 yards, and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Clean football. When I'm thinking about that, you also have to credit Ben Johnson because when Cam Newton had to say that Jared Goff was a game manager, and I think a lot of people took that wrong, but sometimes it's not about the message you're sending, it's about who's receiving the message. You got to listen to that a little bit and start to think about what Jared Goff is as a quarterback. He's a very good quarterback, but this is not a guy who's going to get outside of the pocket, go across the field, and come back to his first read after scrambling and making 3 pass rushes miss. But what he will do and what he excels at and what Ben Johnson has gave him the ability to do is play within structure as much as possible. And when playing in structure, this guy's lights out. You can watch the film. You can look at some of these numbers. I mean, this is a guy, second in passing yards, fourth in passing touchdowns, 12 interceptions. But really, when you look at some of those interceptions, you say, okay, we understand that he had a stretch of football where he was fumbling the football, turning over the football. But you go back to last season, that stretch where they won those football games and defeated the Green Bay Packers to keep them out of the playoffs. And you come to this season and you look at the totality of about the last 21 to 25 football games, and you look at how he's been clean with the football for the most part. 60.3 QBR. And I'm thinking, okay, if he can get the football to Sam Laporta, if he can get the football to St. Brown, Josh Reynolds, there is no telling what this guy can't do. Now, you say, okay, when he gets under pressure, when the pass rush is on him, does he struggle? And I think we can say yes objectively, but you also got to say when he faces literal pressure, not figurative pressure. I'm talking about 4th down, it's money down, it's 3rd down. We got to get this. We're in the red zone. We got to score right there. He's been money. So it all brings me to the question that if he can pull this thing out against Fred Warner, Travarius Ward, Deommodore Lenoir, Nick Bosa, Chase Young, Javon Kinlaw, I can keep going and name all of those guys on that defense. If he pulls this out, what does the question become for Jared Goff? And I think we have these contractual talks. The offseason is coming up. You're looking at a contract extension. He's going to be a guy who's a hot commodity. And what do the Detroit Lions want to do in terms of how he gets paid? Now, like I said, I think for some of these guys, the bar is $40 million per year annually because Daniel Jones got $40 million. There is no way you're going to tell me the way that Jared Goff played this season, he's not getting more than that. But I think when you look at it, how can we find the balance with Brad Holmes, with the football team? How can he find the perfect balance of, okay, I can pay you. You can be very happy. You can do everything you want to do. You can take care of your family generations down the line. But also, you can keep Amara St. Brown, Penei Sewell, some of those guys who will be coming up for contracts. I think it's important that you keep the structure around. But if this guy actually gets this thing done, I mean, when you look at how the San Francisco 49ers have been playing football lately, we understand. Extremely well coached team. They got Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel. I just checked this out earlier. He will be a go for the football game. Christian McCaffrey, Offensive Player of the Year candidate. It's dogs against dogs. When you get this far in the playoffs, it's no easy bookings. You're playing a good football team, but you're also a good football team. So who's going to come to play the most? What coaching staff will be the most prepared? Those are the types of questions you want to ask when you get into a game preview like this. It's good on good. But I want you guys to let me know down below in the comments. Jared Goff pulls this thing out. He's been the driving force in these football games. I think you look at last game, Jahmyr Gibbs, he stepped up, he shined. But you look at the wild card game, Amon St. Brown, all over the football field. But Jared Goff is consistently the guy who's giving these guys the football, who's being the quote-unquote point guard, distributing the football, giving everybody their opportunity. And whether it's a contested throw, a wide-open throw, he's been on the money for the most part. So I'm going to end it like this, and I'm going to ask you the question. Jared Goff pulls this thing out, and he still has another football game if he does win this one. That'll be the Super Bowl. We'll, of course, have to revisit this conversation. But for right now, if he can get the Detroit Lions to the Super Bowl, mind you, coming into this playoff run, they went 32 years without an NFL playoff win. Their last playoff win was the 91-92 season, like we always talked about. Won a game versus the Dallas Cowboys, lost to the Washington team of that time. It's history on history. But for Jared Goff, you look at a guy who's been to a Super Bowl. You look at a guy who's already thrown for 4,500 plus yards with the Los Angeles Rams. That was an electric offense under Sean McVay, but they wanted their different guy. And they swapped. They got Matthew Stafford. But what I'm saying is he has all of the traits. He can make the throws. This is a guy who we have to start respecting. And I think if he pulls this one out, even if he gets to the Super Bowl and does the unthinkable, wins the Super Bowl for Detroit, the city has already taken him in. I think he's a made man in Detroit, but it's time to make your name even bigger for Jared Goff. Detroit Red Wings game, they're going in there. It's an ice hockey game. They're chanting Jared Goff. Detroit Lions football game, they're chanting Jared Goff. You probably walk around the city of Detroit. I'm not even from there, but I can just guess the city there. It's about Jared Goff. That's the conversation, but it's also the question. How do we have to look at this guy if he wins this football game? And we're going to have to revisit because there's still another football game to be played if they pull it out versus the San Francisco 49ers. This is going to be a good football game, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more. But for today's video, that's going to do it for today. And now, we out.